lots of weights, prior to him having an ACL injury, I think he was starting to recognize that a lot of the work he was doing in the gym, he felt like he was always sore and stiff and tight. And I think from what I've read, he believes that that's what led to his ACL injury. And it was after that injury that he really kind of took a different look at the way he trains and recognized that his mobility and keeping his body moving well was a top priority. And since he's taken that approach, he'll say he doesn't experience nearly the same kind of soreness and general body aches that he used to when he was in his 20s.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you win 7 Super Bowls, I guess.
Apparently. I mean, he's certainly showing us something. So
yeah, absolutely. And so the listeners, I guess, don't get too confused, because you talked about strength training and how there can be obviously too much. Like, we got to find the right dose of different things, like your mobility work, your strength training, your endurance training, and whatnot. And it's got to be the right dose for your situation, for your goals and whatnot, and your abilities. So as far as like strength training goes, mobility work, like, we touched on a couple of different things. So like what do we focus on primarily to maximize our health? What sort of aspects or what sort of different types of training or trainings would we use or to maximize our health?
Well, so I think you'd agree with me, Ren, that this is kind of a loaded question, which is the reason why I think you're asking it. But, I think the one thing that we're learning, is that there's no absolute when it comes to exercise. There's no one size fits all. It really always depends. Everyone's different. Everyone has different needs. And I think that's how you want to kind of approach an exercise program, is really kind of approaching it from, what are the individual needs of the person that's in front of us. I love the idea of thinking of exercise as medicine. I think we've been shown time and time again that exercise really is the best medicine. It's the best way of preventing a lot of preventable diseases. It's sort of the best way to even treat a lot of diseases. And the best thing about exercise as medicine is there's very little, if any, negative side effects. And what I always try to tell people when we talk about exercise as medicine is to remember that if we agree that exercise is medicine, then we should treat it as such. And meaning, what I mean by that is, in order to take medication or medicine properly, you really need to have a proper diagnosis and a proper prescription. And what I tend to see in the exercise industry is a lot of people will tend to approach their exercise program by, going in a magazine or going to YouTube, or they go to the gym and they just observe what other people are doing, and they're trying to kind of mimic what they're seeing in those places without ever realizing that what they're doing or what the person in the magazine is doing may be good for them, but not necessarily good for the individual we're talking about. I always say, imagine if, you went to the pharmacy and you kind of went in and you saw this all these drugs and medications on the wall on display, and you thought to yourself, okay, oh geez, I saw that one in a magazine, and that one, I saw someone on YouTube taking that one, or the model in this commercial was taking that medication. I'll just start taking these in random order. Not only is that probably not going to be very effective, but it can also be downright dangerous. And I don't think anyone goes to the pharmacy and starts picking out prescription medicine that way. I mean, typically what they do is they go to their doctor. The doctor will come up with a diagnosis and then will prescribe the medication with a proper dosage and frequency and things like that to make sure that you're having the desired effects of that medication. And I think we really need to approach exercise in the same way. So I think what we want to start with is evaluating the individual. Look and see, do they have mobility at all the joints that they should? Do they have good control over the way the body moves? And then from there, you build the exercise program. Someone who moves well, has good mobility, I think that they have a much greater ability to be able to jump into a more advanced type of a training situation. Someone who doesn't move very well or doesn't have good mobility, we have to kind of start at that level and restore the way the body moves. But to kind of consider exercise as medicine and really, look at it from the standpoint of, I guess if that's the case, I really need to kind of understand what my individual body's needs are, and then come up with a prescription of dosage, intensity, and things like that to allow me to address those needs. before I start to really look at it from a standpoint of performance or, even an aesthetic for that matter, because I think that's a much safer way of going about it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, I think I've heard you talk about the exercise as medicine and looking at it from, I guess, the analogy of if you're looking for medication, and you go to a pharmacy, it's like you're not going to pick things out on your own because that's going to be dangerous, or you could end up wasting a bunch of time on medications that aren't going to work right. And so we really, if our car's broken down, we bring it to a mechanic. We're sick, we go to the doctor. And so why should this be any different? Why, I guess, to ask you, like, why do you think people are kind of more so than in other fields or other areas of life, they're kind of trying to go the do-it-yourself route more in the, exercise and fitness, area, if you will?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really know the reason. I've got some ideas. I think part of it is I think we all just kind of assume that, we just kind of know how to exercise. And to be fair, some exercise is more complicated and complex than others. And I think that's something that we're also starting to see change in the industry a little bit, is to sort of simplify, how we approach exercise. Certainly going for a long walk is great exercise. And there's nothing wrong with walking. It's something we can all do. It doesn't require a lot of fancy equipment. But, again, I think a lot of it also comes to kind of what the fitness industry has kind of perpetuated, which is, this idea of exercise having to be a certain thing in a certain way, that the reasons for exercise should always be to, get bigger, stronger, or smaller, skinnier, and that tends to be the focus of a lot of exercise. And I think it's kind of taken away from a lot of the other benefits of exercise, which is just kind of maintaining your overall health. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of a funny thing. I think for a long time, if you look back in our history as a civilization, exercise was kind of just part of our lifestyle. You worked on a farm, and so you were active, and exercise was just a natural part of your day. So there wasn't as much of a need for quote-unquote exercise. But our society now is very different. Most people tend to sit and sort of be behind a computer, and so being active throughout the day isn't something that's just sort of inherent in our lifestyle. So we have to create this kind of exercise, piece for ourselves. And sometimes I feel like we do kind of make it a little more complex than it needs to be.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah, we tend to overcomplicate it in some ways and then oversimplify it in other ways, because we believe that we can just look at something in a magazine or something on YouTube and assume, oh yeah, I can just do that. But we have literally no idea that our spine is rounding, or our knees are in a bad position and we're eventually going to hurt ourselves. So we're oversimplifying it in that sense, but then at the same time we think we need these big elaborate plans when, like you said, maybe you just need to start walking a little, or maybe you do need to go to the gym and hire a coach or something and start strength training, like if you can't get up out of your chair without some sort of assistance.
Yeah, and as far as, why do people maybe not use a coach in the way that they may use an accountant or a mechanic when it comes to their personal finances or their car? Again, I think there's just sort of this idea that, first of all, I think, hiring a fitness coach can be, prohibitively expensive for a lot of people.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it is expensive. I think there's also a little bit of a stereotype of, the person, being kind of pampered by a trainer. It's kind of has a bit of maybe a stereotypical. Matter of fact, I don't really like the term personal trainer, because to me, it gives this connotation of this, you're you've got this personal assistant or this personal, and it's
Yeah.
really, I do really prefer using the idea of coach, because you really are using that person to help to guide you. It's not any different than the reason a team would use a coach or an Olympic athlete would use a coach. It's good to have someone there to kind of push you, look at you objectively, help you to kind of achieve specific goals, especially with if they have the knowledge and the background to kind of really kind of guide you to that. But I hope that that's changing. I think that one of the things that we're starting to see is we're starting to see a lot more attention being paid to how important exercise is in terms of maintaining health. There's certainly a lot more talk about the importance of exercise as prevention, and we're starting to see fitness professionals graduating with undergraduate degrees in exercise science, and so they have a lot more real knowledge to kind of back up what they're doing and a better understanding of how to guide somebody. So I hope that will change. But yeah, I think a lot of it is people just don't, like you said, they don't realize that when they're squatting, they may not be doing it, properly. And I think hopefully we'll start to see people understanding that more now, that there is a right way to do it, and just moving up and down may not necessarily be right. And so I think hopefully we can change that.
Yeah, and I hope so too. Yeah, you're seeing more people graduate and go into the training field with degrees, whether it's undergrad or even I know a number of people that are getting their master's degrees to do at least similar fields, if not to be trainers or coaches in some capacity. So I'm hoping that as time goes, it's it's a field that's taken more seriously by both the individuals that decide to go into it, and it's not just some sort of side hustle or something that you do because you're not, maybe you have a spouse that's making the money and you don't have to do much. And then it's taken more seriously by the people that really need it as well, that need that medicine to help them better their lives, to be, to maintain independence and turn around their health as well.
Right. And I think that's another big piece of it is I think kind of turning it to more of a professional occupation where the focus again is on using exercise for the health benefits, as opposed to just looking great on the beach or fitting into that pair of pants or something like that. I think that has also been a big part of it. I think that people realize that if I want to look like the model in the magazine, then maybe I should hire a fitness professional that can kind of help to come and get me to that point. But I'm just doing it to kind of help to keep my blood pressure down. I don't really need someone, in that capacity. And I would kind of disagree. I think it's when you start to recognize that it really is something you're doing for your health, it's even more reason why you want to have someone to help to guide you professionally, so you really understand how to get the most out of what you're doing, so that it truly does have a positive impact on your health. It's kind of the same thing. You're going to go to your doctor to kind of take care of your health. You're probably not going to go to your doctor because you want to have a better wardrobe, so you have better you look better when you're going out on Saturday night. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think if we can kind of change the focus of why we exercise more to a health standpoint, I think you'll start to kind of equate that with a more professional. Or the need for more of a professional guidance.
And so, this goes back to something that I've experienced many times. Maybe you've heard it too, is that people coming to you or you trying to perhaps sell yourself to them or something along those lines, but they think that they need to be fit already in order to have a trainer. And I've heard this for years. Yeah,
I know. That's always been an interesting one to me too. I think some of that comes from intimidation, especially if they're considering going into a group, environment, like taking classes or something along those lines. They feel a little intimidated stepping into a group of people who seem to already be fit or have a certain level of fitness, and so they feel like they have to be up to a certain level of fitness before they kind of come into that kind of an environment. And I understand that. I think that's certainly kind of just general human nature. But at the same time, there's so many, mistakes that can be avoided if you kind of jump in early on with a trainer and recognize that working with the right trainer or coach, whether it be in a class environment or one-on-one, Learning the fundamentals and getting that solid foundation, I think, is extremely important. Like I said, can really help to kind of avoid a lot of mistakes that are easily made in those early stages. So I think if there's any time to really kind of employ the use of a fitness professional, it's in those early stages. Learn the fundamentals, understand the way your body works, understand what your body needs. Once you have those fundamentals, theoretically